Hello everyone, welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy, the Hindu news analysis. So today is 11th June 2024 and we have a few very important and very interesting articles from the Hindu newspaper. So before discussing those important news articles, let's try to solve yesterday practice question. So you all knew that yesterday I have given one practice question that is with respect to the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity. So that was started, as I've already told you yesterday's lecture, that the Indo-Pacific as a geostrategic construct has been gaining a lot of prominence in recent times, and in fact in the Indo-Pacific region, India is recognized by most of the countries as the country which plays a central role in the Indo-Pacific region, because now the world has stakes in the peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific, especially in the backdrop of Chinese assertiveness and aggression. So in the entire Indo-Pacific, and we most prominently see Chinese assertiveness and aggression in the Indian Ocean and the South China Sea. Both of these regions are part of the Indo-Pacific. Now, like-minded countries like India, America, they're trying to seek cooperation from different countries to prevent or to, limit the aggression and assertiveness of China. And this Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity is one such attempt by the US and other like-minded countries in the region. Now, the question was, consider the following statements of countries. First, United States, Vietnam, Thailand, India, Republic of Korea. So how many of the above countries are part of the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity? Now first we'll try to see the explanation of this question, and then we'll try to answer this as well. So this Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity, so it was launched by United States. So just remember that the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity was launched by the United States, and this was launched on 23 May 2022 at Tokyo, the capital of Japan. Right? So as of now, the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity comprising of 14 countries in the region. So here I have given the list of countries which are part of Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity. So those countries including Australia, Brunei, Fiji, India, Indonesia, Japan, Republic of Korea, Malaysia, New Zealand, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam and USA. Now Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity comprising most of the countries in the region, in the Indo-Pacific region, along with most of the Asian countries. So the correct answer for this question is option D. All 5 that were given in this question are part of the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity, and apart from that you should also go through all the countries which are part of this particular economic organization. Now proceed on to the today's practice question for prelims. So the question is, which of the following Constitutional Amendment Act limited the total number of Union Council of Ministers including Prime Minister to not more than 15% of the total strength of the Lok Sabha. Now this essentially means that the total strength of the Council of Ministers in an elected government should not be more than 15% of the total strength of the Lok Sabha. So however, this 15% of limit on the Council of Ministers is imposed by which of the following Constitutional Amendment Acts? See, this is also a very important and a very relevant question. Why? Because recently the oath taking ceremony of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and all his ministers took place. Now therefore, in this backdrop, it is very important to know that which Constitutional Amendment Act has limited the Council of Ministers to 15% of the strength of the Lok Sabha. So try to answer this question in the comment section and I'll be providing you the correct answer in tomorrow's class. Now we'll start this discussion by few important articles, and first and foremost important article is with respect to the climate action. A push for climate action. Now, we all knew that climate change is the most pressing challenge that the humanity has been facing in the 21st century, and there is no doubt about that. Now, if you introspect the major reasons behind the climate change, the major reason for the present levels of climate change is anthropogenic factors. So anthropogenic factors have been further aggravating this situation and further leading to the drastic and rapid climate change. Now it is also associated with several negative weather based impacts on the human beings. Now in this context, the international climate litigation, so that is with respect to the a litigation is something which deals with the climate related matters, okay, or climate related complaints. This international climate litigation has reached a milestone recently with the International Tribunal for Law of Seas delivering an advisory opinion which was sought by the Commission for Small Island States on Climate Change and International Law. Now if you look at this Commission for Small Island States, now what are these small island states? See, these are the islands in the Indian Ocean, Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, where they are very small and they are also poor, and at the same time the population in these islands is also very less. But when we talk about the climate change and its impact, the small island states are worst sufferers of the climate change. And apart from that, these small islands have also been facing the threat of submergence because of increasing sea levels over a period of time, right? So this Commission for Small Island States on Climate Change and International Law has sought an opinion from the International Tribunal for Law of Seas. Okay, so the opinion that was tendered by the International Tribunal for Law of Seas clarifies specific obligations of the parties to the United Nations Convention on Law of Seas of 1982 regarding the climate change mitigation. Now, since the sea levels have been rising, it is very important that the climate change and the negative effects associated with the climate change must be reduced or must be prevented. Now, in this case, the United Nations Convention on Law of Seas, so it was a convention which governs matters with respect to seas, and it also plays a very important role in climate change mitigation, because climate change mitigation will reduce the increasing levels of sea, and these small island states will also not face enough threat because of increasing sea levels. Okay, so what are the key elements of the advisory opinion that was being tendered by the International Tribunal on Law of Seas? First and foremost, it has identified certain obligations of different parties, right? So when we talk about the advisory opinion that was given by the International Tribunal on Law of Seas, so that is being identified under Article 194, Clause 1 of the United Nations Convention on Law of Seas of 1982. So this United Nations Convention on Law of Seas has been, implying that the parties have certain specific obligations to prevent, reduce and control marine pollution and also reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. We all knew that the greenhouse gas emissions to a major extent are responsible for the present levels of climate change. And apart from that, when we talk about the oceans, in recent times, pollution and unregulated, uncontrolled fishing has also been significantly increasing. Now, this UN clause has mandated that each party to this UN clause have a specific obligations with respect to the prevention and reduction of marine pollution and also reduction of anthropogenic or human-based greenhouse gases emissions into the atmosphere. Now, first and foremost, we need to understand the importance of carbon as most potent greenhouse gas, right? So it is said that whenever we burn the fossil fuels, either through vehicular emissions, industrial emissions or any other usage, for example, even for energy generation also we have been using coal. So when these fossil fuels are burned, they release a huge amounts of carbon into the atmosphere. Now, huge amounts of the carbon will lead to the acidification of seawater over a period of time. So the acidic nature of the seawater increases over a period of time because of the presence of carbon in the atmosphere. Now the ocean acidification increases, it will have negative consequences or harmful effect on the marine life. So it would threaten the marine life, marine food chain and marine food web also. And when ocean acidification taking place, so that also leads to the increasing ocean temperatures. Now increasing ocean temperatures will lead to the expanding the sea levels. Increasing ocean temperatures will lead to the further increasing the sea levels or sea level rise, and this particular recognition of chain effects, burning of fossil fuels, carbon, ocean acidification, increasing sea surface temperatures and sea level rise. So the recognition of these things actually address the impact of anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions on the marine environment. So therefore there is an urgent need that we must reduce the anthropogenic greenhouse gases emissions impact on the marine environment. However, in this context, we should not forget the collective responsibility and due diligence to the obligation of different parties to this convention, because no single country can completely reduce the pollution or the greenhouse gases emissions into the atmosphere. Rather, we require collective responsibility at the global level. We require collective effort at the global level, and that is how we can reduce greenhouse gases. Okay, so when we talk about this, the advisory opinion actually underscores the principle of collective responsibility. Okay, so this addresses the principle of collective responsibility in addressing climate change and also emphasizing on necessary measures. Okay, so the necessary measures which are actually based on available science and international agreements like Paris Climate Change Agreement. So we all knew that the Paris Climate Change Agreement was earlier, framed, and that is also aimed to reduce the greenhouse gases emissions into the atmosphere, and it has also mandated common but differentiated responsibilities for countries. So the responsibilities for all the countries to mitigate the negative impact of, reduce the emissions into the atmosphere are same, but different countries have different capacities and different levels of development. So it is very important that we must identify those differences and accordingly do something to reduce the emission of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Now this collective responsibility of different countries with respect to the marine pollution and the negative effects of greenhouse gases can actually done through the collective responsibility between different countries. Okay, so now next we'll try to understand the legal implications and challenges with respect to the marine pollution, or what will be the legal implications whenever we are acting collectively with respect to the reducing marine pollution and reducing the negative impact of climate change on the marine environments. And first and foremost, we need to interpret the obligations on different state parties which are part of the United Nations Convention on Law of Seas. Okay, so what will be the legal obligation? Now every country or every party to this United Nations Convention on Law of Seas have an obligation to act. Okay, so not just one country but all the countries so which are party to this particular convention have the obligation to act. Okay, so there is a general obligation on every state to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, and in fact this obligation was also mandated by the Paris Climate Deal. Right, Paris Climate Deal has also mandated the obligation on different countries to reduce the greenhouse gases emissions into the atmosphere. So however, the problem here is that there is no specificity regarding the methodology that has to be adopted for assessing these mitigation actions. So how we can mitigate the negative consequences of the greenhouse gas emissions or climate change? So there is no specific methodology on this. And this particular ambiguity actually presents a lot of challenges in determining the requisite level of action from different parties. For example, now when we talk about the obligations of different countries, there should be a difference between the developed countries and developing countries, and how those developed countries are acting against climate change, because now they have more technology, more financial resources. And in fact, it is also said that those developed countries are responsible for the present levels of climate change, and therefore there should be a greater burden on the developed countries with respect to acting on climate change. And they should also support the poor and developing countries by providing finances, technology, and helping them to build capacities to deal with the climate change. So there should be a proper methodology on this. And after that, we need to consider the means and capabilities of different countries. And again, this particular thing has also been emphasizing on how, so yes, it is necessity that we must reduce the marine pollution, and we should also address the anthropogenic emissions and its impact on the marine environment. So, but what should be the means, and how to identify the capabilities of different countries? For example, the poor and underdeveloped countries or small island developing states would have less capabilities. But on the other hand, when we talk about the developed countries, the developed countries would have, a greater financial, greater amount of finances with them, and they also have a greater level of technology, and the degree of development is also much high in those developed countries. So therefore, there should be a consideration of means and capabilities to decide obligations of these countries. Okay, so this recognition that necessary, which measures must consider the means which are already available to the respective states, and the capabilities. So what should be the capabilities? And it actually highlights the principle of equity in addressing the climate change. Now, principle of equity in the sense that, so equity actually talks about there should not be an equal burden on countries which have the different degrees of or different levels of development, different levels of finances, technology. So that is where the equity principle will come, and we need to decide the obligations of different countries based on means and capabilities, and it should be ultimately done based on the principle of equity. And apart from that, the political and legal authority is also lacking as of now, if we can talk about this specifically. Okay, so despite there is a lack of legal force to enforce any of these obligations at the international level. Now, international governance is, it lacking structure, right? So to enforce any of these conventions, laws, rules, and regulations at the international level, because now each country is considered itself as a sovereign, right? So because of that reason, despite lacking this legal force, the advisory carries political weight. So whatever advisory, whatever opinions which are being tendered by these international organizations, so they actually carry a lot of political weight. And they also considered as the authoritative judicial pronouncements. And therefore, it actually serves as a guiding principles for different states so that they can navigate the climate change mitigation efforts in a much more effective and efficient manner. However, we should not forget that in this particular context, we must ensure the international cooperation, and should also ensure the adherence to the established standards. So that is very, very important here, and that is also very crucial here in this context. So the next very important article is with respect to from warp speed to reset the state of India-US ties. Right? So now, what exactly is the state of India-US ties? And that is being discussed here. Now, in fact, if you look at India-US ties in recent times, so India has leaned towards US. So we can say that India has more leaned towards US in recent times. So India has also made a lot of efforts or attempts to significantly improve its ties with US. And in fact, in last year, US was the top trading partner for us, and we have a lot of a trade surplus with US. So apart from trade surplus, so India and US are the countries which are having the shared interests, common vision in the Indo-Pacific region, and both these countries are part of the Quad grouping. And apart from that, there are a number of military and security related measures or initiatives that were launched in recent times that has further stepped up India and US ties. Now we'll try to understand this in a broader manner. So June 2024, the author has been saying that June 2024 marks an year of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's state visit to United States. Okay, so in this particular visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to US, the strategic cooperation between these two countries, both India and US, was excessively emphasized by both the countries or the leadership of both these countries. So, however, a year later of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's state visit to US, the pace of relationship has not met the expectations. So there is some, a kind of a roadblock or some kind of an issue between India and US relations due to various internal and external factors. Now, what are those factors which have been limiting the potential of India-US ties? So first and foremost, we need to briefly talk about India-US ties a few decades back. Okay, so the relationship between India and US has actually witnessed a significant growth since Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee's speech in 1998. So after Atal Bihari Vajpayee's speech, in 1998, what we have done, we have conducted the Pokhran nuclear test. Now, after conducting Pokhran nuclear test, there are a number of countries which have imposed sanctions on India because India tried to acquire nuclear weapons. Now, because of those tests that were conducted earlier, now India is a nuclear weapon state and India would be able to ensure its security on its own. And India acquiring nuclear weapons has also helped us to ensure a deterrent effect in the region. Okay, so in a way, it would ensure peace and stability because India is a responsible country, unlike Pakistan. So therefore, after this Pokhran nuclear test, Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee gave a speech in 1998, and this has marked 25 years of improved relations of post-Pokhran between India and US. And apart from that, if you look at the areas where India and US have been cooperating, and the cooperation in those areas has seen a lot of improvement, including climate change, technology, and outer space. So because in recent times, India has signed this Artemis Accords also with the USA. So apart from our Artemis Accord, and we have also launched, we also plan to launch a satellite, a combined satellite, NISAR satellite. Okay, so that satellite is known as NASA ISRO Synthetic Apparatus Radar. Okay, so the focus will be on outer space and even climate change, renewable energies, and other technologies. However, the strategic element of India and US relations, this is the strategic element, so that is being evident in the conclusion of the foundational agreements. There are a certain foundational agreements between India and US. For example, basic exchange and memorandum of understanding. So those are some of the COMCOSA. So those are known as the basic foundational agreements in the area of defense between India and US. So this strategic element or the strategic trust is evident from signing this foundational agreements between India and US. For example, I can tell you that this LIMOVA, okay, logistics LIMOVA, okay, so this is logistics exchange and memorandum of understanding, and COMCOSA. Okay, so COMCOSA, logistic exchange, memorandum of understanding. So there are BECA. Okay, so BECA. Okay, so these are some of the foundational agreements that we have signed with the US. And apart from that, a very important military exercise is Malabar military exercise, and there is also a growing cooperation in the maritime operations as well. So however, a bone of contention between India and US is with respect to US ties with Pakistan, particularly the concerns over the Jammu and Kashmir, because US very often raises the issue of human rights violations in Indian side of the Jammu and Kashmir, but it very often neglects about the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Okay, so US concerns over the Jammu and Kashmir and US ties with the Pakistan and the Pakistan occupied Kashmir's issue is being raised by US very often. So these are some issues which actually limiting the potential of India-US relations. Now, not just these relations, but also India's ties with respect to Russia. Because when all the Western countries have imposed sanctions on Russia, India was the country which has imported a lot of oil from Russia. And in fact, India and Russia are also one of the key partners or key players in the region. So apart from that, the bilateral engagement between India and US has also been thriving significantly. So despite there are a lot of challenges between India and US, so the bilateral engagement has been continues to thrive at the official level, right? So that is definitely a positive thing to hear about. So however, the China factor, this is a factor which has been bringing both India and US together, and the need for the multilateral cooperation has also compelled both these countries to come together. We all knew that, as I've already told you, that this Indo-Pacific geostrategic construct is very important. So therefore, all the like-minded countries in the region, including US, India, Japan, and Australia, have come together and they have established the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue Framework. So the basic objective of Quadrilateral Security Dialogue Framework is to ensure regional peace, stability, free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific in the region. And they also wanted to counter Chinese expansionist, aggressive, and assertive plans. So therefore, the cooperation between India and US at the Quad actually forced the logistical challenges. It has actually facing a lot of challenges, and logistical challenges is one such challenge. So however, these challenges have also led to the US effect on US officials visit, and it has also impacted the initiative on critical and emerging technologies between India and US. Now understand this initiative on critical and emerging technologies is a very, very important initiative that was launched between these two countries in recent times. So apart from that, if you look at India and US relations, there is also some sort of a strained relationship between these two countries in recent times, because the potential of these two countries is limited by certain things. So first and foremost is that the tensions over the comments on human rights violations in a democracy. And in fact, US very often making comments on human rights violations in India and sliding back of democracy. Okay, so there is a democratic slide, and apart from that, there are differences in approaches between India and US with respect to Russia's war in Ukraine. Okay, so and apart from that, the Israel's actions in Gaza. So all these factors have further complicated the potential or further complicated the positive relations between India and US. So however, despite the relationship has been facing a lot of challenges, which are mostly related to the security and the perceptions of India's involvement in these alleged plots. So such as, for example, recent times, there was, India attempted to assassinate a Khalistani separatist leader who is in US, Guru Patwant Singh Pannu. So US has taken this as a very serious matter, because the intelligence information that US has provided revealing that there is an Indian secret service agency's involvement in the killing of a person in Canada, and also assassination attempt on Guru Patwant Singh Pannu, who is living in New York of USA. So all these factors have been playing essential role in, or playing a very important role in limiting India-US relations. So the next very important article is Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi. Now we all knew that the government of India launched a program called Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi. So under this Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi, 6,000 rupees will be provided as a financial assistance to every farmer to meet input requirements. Okay, so to meet input requirements or any other requirements for the farmers. However, so this 6,000 rupees will be directly credited into the bank account of the beneficiary through the direct benefit transfer. However, it is not a one-time installment or one-time payment. Rather, the government will pay 6,000 rupees in 3 installments, so 2,000 rupees in one single installment. So the union government on Monday, when the government formed immediately, so it has released 17th installment of the PM Kisan Nidhi scheme. So that was the first decision of the new Narendra Modi government has taken. Now, when we talk about this Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana, what was this program? So why it was launched? So Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana is a Government of India initiative. Okay, so as I have already told you that this particular program will provide minimum income support to all the landed farmers. So there is some restriction also. So below 5 acres, and this will provide a minimum income support of 6,000 rupees to all small and marginal farmers every year in 3 installments. Also understand, only the landed farmers are part of the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana. So however, the sharecroppers are not covered under this program, and tenant farmers are also not covered under this program. Now this PM Kisan Yojana provides a financial assistance of 6,000 rupees per annum to land holding farmers, especially the small and marginal farmers, and this is payable in 3 installments and 2,000 rupees in every 4 months, each and every 4 months. Now what are the basic objectives of PM Kisan Yojana? Now when you look at the agriculture sector in India, it is said that agriculture sector is the backbone of our country, and around 50% of India's population directly and indirectly dependent on the farming sector. So therefore, when we talk about the agriculture and the farmers, they are one of the key sections of our society. Okay, so even though they are key sections of the society and most of the people have engaged in the agriculture sector, agriculture sector inherently suffering with a lot of challenges. For example, the either droughts or floods, and lack of adequate irrigation facilities, and underproductivity, lack of consolidation of land holdings, and excessive use of fertilizer pesticides that has been reducing the productivity of the land. So all these factors have led to a kind of a distress in the agriculture sector, and farmers very often not able to even finance the input needs also. And all these challenges that I have recently as I have discussed, that this has led to the socio-economic disparities in the agriculture sector, and this has also led to the differences in the development between urban and rural areas of the country. And because of all these challenges, the farming communities are also very often struggling with a lot of challenges with respect to the financial support. Now, they cannot approach the banks for loans because it is a cumbersome process. It takes a lot of time. However, very often the farmers have been approaching the local money lenders and borrowing money with a very high interest rate. So since the productivity is very less, they are unable to pay those debt, and that are very often leading to the farmer suicides also. So in order to deal with all those challenges, the center has announced financial assistance of 6,000 rupees for every landed small and marginal farmers. Okay, so so keeping this in mind, the central government has decided to address this socio-economic distress that the farming community has been facing through launching various initiatives, and PM Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana is one such initiative. It was launched in the year 2018 to address or to help small and marginal farmers in India. Now, what are the major features of Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana? So first and foremost, it is an Indian government sponsored farmer support scheme. So, when we talk about the funding for this particular scheme, so the union government completely contributes to the funding of this PM Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana. So initially it was announced with a reserve of 75,000 crore per year spent on this particular initiative. So apart from that, if you look at the few states, over and above 6,000 rupees which are provided by the Kisan Samman Nidhi, other states have also been providing a same and equal matching amount to the farmers. Okay, for example, PM Kalia announced 13,000 rupees of financial assistance to every farmer. Raitu Bandhu in Telangana. So Kalia in Odisha. And apart from that, there are a few other programs. Okay, so it is said that so far it has disbursed 17,000 crore in the latest installment on 9th August 2020. So it is directly credited into the bank accounts of the eligible beneficiaries. Now, when we talk about the responsibility for the identification of eligible beneficiaries, so even though the financial assistance is being provided by the center to all the eligible farmers, the major responsibility to identify the eligible beneficiaries lies with the state and union territory governments. And apart from that, the state and union territory governments shall identify each farmer families and which are the farmer families that will benefit from this particular program. And apart from that, it is very important and it is very crucial to note that this PM Kisan Samman Nidhi Yojana definition, a farmer family shall comprise of husband, wife and minor child or children. Okay, so this is how the government actually provides support to the farmers. So 6,000 rupees per annum in 4 installments. So in 3 installments. So excuse me, sorry. So the next very important article is expansion of the BRICS, and India welcomes the new members into this BRICS grouping, right? So BRICS is an acronym for 5 countries. So Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, and recently few more countries were allowed into or become part of the BRICS grouping. So what are those countries? So those countries including Egypt, Iran, UAE, Saudi Arabia and Ethiopia. So these are the 5 countries which are going to become part of the BRICS grouping. Now the BRICS will be an expanded version. Okay, so this will be an expanded version or an expanded group. Now context is that India on Monday welcomed the Egypt, Iran, UAE, Saudi Arabia and Ethiopia joining the BRICS grouping. So the representatives from this new members of the BRICS have attended a meeting in that was conducted in Russia. Now we'll briefly understand about this BRICS grouping. So what was the BRICS? So BRICS is actually an acronym for a grouping of the world's leading and emerging economies. So as I've already told you that BRICS including Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. Okay, so the leaders meeting of the BRICS summit actually convened every year. Now when we look at some stats with respect to this BRICS grouping, the BRICS brings together 5 of the largest developing countries of the world. For example, if you look at India, China, Russia, Brazil, South Africa, so they are largest developing countries with a huge economic potential. So therefore, they wanted to cooperate with each other, and recently the BRICS countries have also mooted the idea of BRICS currency. So to overcome the supply chain or any other currency shortages with respect to or reduce the dominance of the dollar, so they have mooted the idea of this BRICS currency. Now when we look into the statistics of this BRICS, so BRICS brings together 5 of the largest developing countries of the world. And these BRICS countries have been representing 41% of the global population, 24% of the global GDP and 16% of the global trade. So this is the potential of the BRICS countries. And in fact, the BRICS countries are very often seen at the global level as emerging investment market, and it is a global power block. In fact, a lot of countries are looking forward to join or to be part of the BRICS grouping. So because of that reason, All these BRICS countries are emerging investment markets with strong growth potential. So when we look at this structure of this BRICS grouping, so BRICS does not exist in the form of an organization. This is not an organization, right? So this is not a formal organization. They don't have their own secretariat. Rather, it is an annual summit between the supreme leaders of all these 5 countries. The leaders of all these 5 countries every year meet. For example, based on the rotation. For example, if it is first conducted in Brazil and then Russia, from Russia to India, India to China, China to South Africa. So this is how the BRICS meeting convened annually, where the leaders of all these 5 countries regularly meet. Now, when we talk about the genesis or the origin of this BRICS grouping, the acronym of BRICS, as I've already told you, it is 5 different countries, and it was formulated by an economist, Jim O'Neill of Goldman Sachs, in 2001. Okay, so he proposed this in a report that is on growth prospects of the economies of Brazil, Russia, India, and China. So these countries together represent BRIC. So however, in 2016, the 4 countries initiated regular informal diplomatic coordination with each other. Okay, so the annual meetings of the foreign ministers, supreme leaders of the BRICS countries or BRIC countries has started growing, or the margins of general debate on the United Nations General Assembly. Okay, so the successful interaction has led to the decision that the dialogue was to be carried forward at the level of heads of state and government in annual summits. Now, what is the timeline of setting up this BRICS grouping? The first BRICS summit took place in the year 2009 in Russian Federation, and it focused on issues such as reform of the global financial architecture. In fact, all these BRICS countries have been very often recommending for the reforming of institutions of global governance, especially the global financial architecture. However, South Africa was invited to join this BRIC grouping in the year 2010, and after South Africa joined in this BRIC, so it has become BRICS. Okay, so and it was subsequently attended in the 3rd BRICS summit in Sanya, China in March 2011. Now, what are the basic objectives of this BRICS grouping? This BRICS seeks to deepen, broaden, and intensify the cooperation within the BRICS grouping. Okay, so whenever we talk about the cooperation between all these BRICS countries, it is based on sustainable, equitable, and mutually beneficial development between all these countries. So apart from that, the BRICS takes into consideration each member's growth prospectus, the developmental objectives, and the poverty objectives, so that it will ensure the relations built on respective countries' economic strength and avoid competition wherever possible. So they essentially cooperate on a wide variety of matters. And in fact, so most of these BRICS countries markets are known as emerging markets with a lot of growth potential. So therefore, BRICS is an emerging and new and promising political diplomatic entity with a diverse and wide-ranging objectives beyond the original objective of reforming the global financial institutions. Now, what is the importance of BRICS for India? So first and foremost, we need to talk about the geopolitical importance of BRICS for India. Okay, so if you look at the present geopolitics, it becomes difficult for India to carve a middle path for balancing the strategic interest between US and Russia-China axis, right? So BRICS actually provides a platform for India to cooperate with China and Russia on different contentious issues. So therefore, BRICS platform provides an opportunity for India to balance this Russia-China axis. So growing Russia-China axis is being seen with a lot of skepticism in India. Okay, so and apart from that, we have significantly and disproportionately dependent on Russia for our energy imports and even the defense supplies from Russia. So therefore, the Russia-China axis is seen with a lot of skepticism in India, and there are a lot of recent initiatives which are launched in this BRICS grouping. Okay, so first, the BRICS Media Forum that was launched in March 2022. The BRICS countries, including all these countries, have launched a 3-month-long training program for the journalist. And this program was an initiative of the BRICS Media Forum. So what was this BRICS meeting on climate change? So in May 2022, the Union Minister of Environment, Forest, Climate Change participated in this BRICS high-level meeting on climate change. Okay, so these are the some of the areas where BRICS cooperate, and recently all the member countries, all the leaders of this BRICS countries have decided to further expand, further open doors of BRICS to other important countries in the region, which can play a more important role. And at the same time, so the BRICS should not be inward looking. So the doors of BRICS must be opened so that it could be more and more dynamic. And in order to give effect to this thought, the BRICS countries have decided to include a few more countries part of the BRICS, 5 more countries to be welcomed into this BRICS grouping. So they are Iran, Saudi Arabia. So those countries are Iran, Saudi Arabia, this is very important, just remember them, and United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and Ethiopia. So all these countries were included in this BRICS grouping from 2024 January. Okay, so that's all in this lecture, and thank you so much. So please like the video and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.